All right. Welcome to part two of our futuristic user interface animation. If you recall from part one, we designed and animated this little pop up button to, help our astronauts know which button to press to blast off. So here we go. Here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and start doing some compositing and some VFX to get it looking from so flat to maybe just like a little bit more like this, where there's a little bit of light and some glow and some more user interfacey style stuff. So let's get started. Okay, so first things first, a lot of these user interfaces are going to have some sort of grid in the back, so we can talk about making that grid and what that looks like. So what we'll do is we'll hit Control Y, and this will make kind of like a solid for us. So we'll pop that in. And then what we'll do is under the effects, what we're going to actually create is we're going to go to Generate Grid. And you can see this makes a grid for us almost automatically. Now you can keep the sizes bigger or smaller. You can see that you can make the lines big or small. So maybe we'll just do like a 2. We don't want it to be too overpowering. And then, you can change the color of the grid if you want, but let's not worry about that too much. And then you can actually do width and height sliders also. So you can see that I could do like 15 by 15 or something like that, where we're changing the width between each one. Now we'll probably want to go a little bit bigger than this. Seems a little busy. So maybe 30 by 30, maybe 50 by 50. I can live with that. That's cool. So we'll take this black solid, put it all the way down at the bottom, and just keep it under everything right there. Now this grid is usually, the opacity of this grid is usually pretty low. As you can see, we kind of want to do something like that with it, down to like 15, 20%. So just be aware that we'll be adjusting a lot of these layers opacities as we move forward. So that feels pretty, user interfacey. And then what we can do is start adding specific layers to sort of create our overall effects. Now, adjustment layers are a great way to handle this. You saw we already did an adjustment layer here where we kind of turned everything like to white so we kind of know what we're doing. But we can just, again, Control Alt Y, make a new adjustment layer, and then what we can do is do a couple things. One, we can start adding some color. Two, we can also start adding like our glow effect. So let's just start with the glow. So we're going to go to our effect controls again, and we'll go to stylize, and we'll select glow. Now glow has a threshold here, which means how much of the light do you want me to use. Now when it's white, that threshold isn't going to do too much, but you can see that when we adjust the radius, we can get a little bit more of this kind of like intensity can go up or down. So we don't need too much. Like right now we can have it like 0.5 intensity. And the threshold we can mess with later. What's nice is that we can make this a new adjustment layer. And we can start messing with the color. So what we can do is go color correction, hue saturation, and you can actually hit colorize. And you can see that if we take the lightness down here to like -50, now we start being able to, you can take the saturation up a little bit, maybe not too crazy, but you can start rolling through different colors that you want. And you'll see that each one of these has kind of its own specific properties to it. So you want to find, you can pick any color you'd like. You can find like these like kind of nice middle areas where you can see that the glow sort of like lives a little bit more. And that's when you can come to your previous adjustment layer and adjust the threshold, right? So it's like, how much of this do I want to be glowy and how much do I want to not be glowy. So let's see here. That feels pretty good. 60-ish, 61-ish, something like that. And then you can go ahead and adjust like kind of these, a little bit more of these. And as we move forward, there'll be more for us to kind of do here on individual layers as well, as we adjust the opacity and like and that. Now you're welcome to do individual glow layers as well. No problem with that. You can just sort of see, hey, this is where this works or this doesn't work, and then you can kind of like make some alterations. So like, let's say we took this thick line here, and we did hue saturation. What you could do is then hit colorize, right? We'll just bump the saturation up, and then we can take this down a little bit, and we can start kind of messing a little bit with what this color ends up being for the wide thick circle. So there's lots of like different kind of techniques that you can do to sort of like, how am I going to make this kind of like more interesting or whatever. Another way that you can do this is you can actually make like a gradient or a ramp or something, so that the glow can have a little bit more adjustment. So like, you can make a new solid right here, and it turns black, but don't worry about it. And then what we can do is hit generate, and then a gradient ramp. You can make it a radial ramp. This can go in the middle, so we can have a little bit more glow in the middle. Maybe make the glow a little bit like this on the inside. Maybe make the outside much darker. And you can see that we can do different like kind of overlay styles, or maybe even screen, so that this has a little bit of an opportunity to sort of affect some things but not everything, right? If that kind of makes sense. All right, so you can see how that kind of works. So basically that's kind of what we're up to. We're going to just kind of start messing around with this to make it as kind of intense as possible. Now some of these we may want very specific glow treatments, where we can actually have these kind of do glows on top of glows. So you could do like, again, stylize, glow, and then you can see what you want to do with this one bracket right here. So this is like this top left bracket. So we can take the threshold down, and you can see I'm adding extra glow to this kind of on its own. That works pretty good. So you can actually copy effects from one layer and then just paste them on other layers. So you see we have a little bit more glow now for some of that, which is nice. And you know, if this glow is working great for the ship, but maybe not so great for everything else, you know, you can kind of like get a little bit more crazy with the threshold as well as the radius. And you can start making these adjustments so that you kind of end up with a little bit more what you want. Feels a little glowy. And then adjust, you know, the color too. So a lot of this is like, again, totally up to you to sort of like experiment. If you don't like the way something looks underneath the adjustment layers, what you can do is actually go down to like, say, your circles here, and you can actually bring all these above your adjustment layers, right? Go ahead and take this adjustment layer that has your hue saturation, and you can actually make these. So I'll take the lightness up a little bit, or maybe that's actually pretty good. Maybe we should keep that circle there. Circle feels nice, right? That works nice. We can leave that down there, but then we can do that same thing with this. Color correction, hue saturation, Then we can hit colorize or bring the saturation up, bring the lightness up a little bit. And this is where you can start like kind of getting other colors too. So we'll just kind of like make this a little bit more like that blue. So it's a little bit brighter, right? Then we can add our own kind of stylized color and specific glow. So this works pretty good. I like this threshold right there. We don't want it to glow too much. That's pretty good, like that. It's not bad. So if you like that look, go ahead and just grab both of these. Hit Command C, copy, go to your thin line, go to your thick line. And what you can do, what's nice about this is like make these individual adjustments on things that you want to be slightly different. So maybe we want these to have a little bit more, kind of live in like this like greener area. The growth threshold down a little bit. And then maybe bump up the there you go, bump up that a little bit. And then maybe kind of do the same thing with the thick line. Same idea. Delete, delete. And then kind of make the same idea. Maybe we even change the color of this slightly. You know, just something that adds a little bit more. And you're welcome to explore this however you want. There's going to be lots of options for you here. So, you know, just play around with it, see what happens. Kind of like this a little bit. It's not bad. I can take this down a little bit. Okay, there you go. So you get the idea. So now when we kind of see this, kind of have this happening, and you know, maybe our black solid here. Sorry, I double clicked on that. You know, maybe we want to have this above, right? So it looks a little bit more like this. And what we can do is take the opacity of that black solid down a little bit. Maybe you like the look of that underneath the adjustment layers. And you can, you know, scale this up a little bit so it spreads out a little bit more. Bring it down a little bit if you just want it glowing in the middle. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can kind of mess around with. Maybe this color's just too bright in the middle. Bring it down. Oh, too much. Let's try a different, somewhere in the middle there. There you go. It's not bad. All right, so there you get the idea. Now, this ignition type kind of maybe needs something special to differentiate it. So maybe what we do is we go down to color correction again, click on hue saturation. Maybe we'll colorize it. Well, you know what, since it's already white, yeah, maybe we go ahead and take this down and we bring it above our adjustment layer along with our circles, and if we give it a really differentiated color, like something that's going to stand out so that we know that this is an important button to push. I don't know, that yellow seems kind of cool. That's not bad. And then we can stylize glow this individually too. See where you end up here. Okay, so that's not bad. It works out pretty good. I think it's fine. It's a little glowy. You can always add another little like kind of glowy layer. But we're looking at something to sort of like tie this all in together. So there's lots of other little things we can do to sort of make this all kind of work together. And that includes like simply just adding another adjustment layer with even another glow layer, right? So now we're sort of doing every little thing is kind of glowing. As you can see, that's way too high on the threshold, so maybe we need to dial it back. Maybe that's okay. That's interesting. It's not bad. It's a little crazy, but I ain't mad at it. Then once you kind of have like the bloom that you want, you can just dial back the opacity a little bit, sort of just kind of bring it around to where you want it to be. And now let's see what else we can do. Teach you guys a couple other little tricks here. So feel free to go ahead and make another solid, and we'll do some other types of tricks here. And we'll go down to another transition, and this one's called Venetian blinds. So Venetian blinds is interesting because you can set these to go kind of like at a 90-degree angle, and then the transition completion, you can see what we're getting at is here, like maybe I make the width 5 or something, and I can zoom in a little bit here. And you can see what we're doing is kind of creating these interlacing lines, like kind of on these old, so you can see as I bump the transition up, I get that. Maybe what I should do is put this under the glow. There you go. So you can see now I'm sort of like, and you can kind of mess with how complete the transition is to get lighter or darker, but you know, now that we kind of have those interlaced lines, we get a little bit more control over what that's doing. So that's just an interesting way to sort of add kind of a certain amount of kind of realism to it. Let's just kind of watch, see how it goes. Just ran previewing. Okay, maybe now we see that ignition, once it goes up, maybe ignition should just keep blinking like every half second on and off, right? So after it populates, it's like done, boom, here it is, ignition. So we'll just like do some opacity changes, like we'll just turn the layer on and off. So like on, and then like just maybe like a half second later. So like kind of just, we may find that we want it to blink a little bit more, but this is fine. So I'm just going to copy and paste these layers. Right, it gives a little bit more life, a little bit more action. Right, and then you can imagine someone like pushing that button to like kind of blast their ship off. Another fun thing to do is, besides the interlacing lines, which you know work out pretty well, is we'll do another example. Is if you want, you can actually, we'll just turn off that one. Let's go ahead and make a new solid. And what we'll do this time is go back to our generate grid. And that's kind of interesting because what will happen is like we can actually make this look like, we can change the color of grid to black. Then we can do width and height sliders. And maybe we'll go like, maybe the width is like 0.5, like a very thin line. Then maybe we take these to like 2 and 2 or something. And you can see what we've done is we've actually sort of made this look like it's on like a pixel monitor. Maybe we can bump up the drum on this a little bit. We'll make it 3 and 3 with 1. There you go. And again, you can adjust the opacity for this too, so you can kind of get, you know, you're starting to get that pixel feel, right? You can see that it's coming through like it just like it would on a computer monitor. So it's one other thing you could do instead of our version of like those scan lines. It kind of helps make it feel real. Again, simple tricks, to sort of replicate like generally what this might look like on an actual computer screen. All right. Well, there you go. I mean, that's pretty much the long and short of it. We don't need to do much more than that, other than like trying to get it to feel like it has a bit of a loop, a little bit of life to it. I think the way it comes on is very true to the kind of the visual language that we're attempting, and then also it has a you know a certain like polarization to like the way it looks, the way it feels. There's some contrast there with the colors, and you can do like a master adjustment layer also if you want. So if I made this new adjustment layer here, and I just went to hue, color correction, hue, saturation again, you can actually kind of like do like a global control of like other things that you might consider doing. Like just explore, right? It's like, oh, that's not that bad. Looks kind of cool. Let's see what else. Like just pull this slider a little bit longer. Oh, this yellow one's not bad. This purple's crazy. So you can just kind of experiment with like pulling these sliders around to see kind of, here's one that's like green and orange. This isn't bad. The type isn't super legible, but it's not bad. I don't hate it. So you can make kind of global adjustments depending on like if you're like, oh, I was really close on that. Maybe I just want a little bit darker and a little yellow. So you can see that like just the subtle change there. Right? Just got it a little bit darker. Took it from yellow. The text is a little bit greenish now. So you can make these global adjustments also once you're kind of wrapped everything up. Okay, well, that's it. That's the sort of VFX compositing kind of lighting part of this project. Experiment, try different stuff, experiment with different colors, individual layers, putting stuff above or below. You can also mess around with different blending modes if you have certain ideas. But yeah, have fun. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. And looking forward to seeing what you got when you're done with this. Just render it out. You don't have to make it a loop. Just render out this, 5-6 second loop of animation, and then we'll post it.